What's up, everybody? Todd Tramonte here with my buddy Jason Simard, and we're going to have another little real estate conversation here. We like to do this from time to time for really two reasons. Number one, we pick each other's brain and we grow and we build our businesses. And then number two, I think both of us get a lot of joy and sort of satisfaction from sharing that with other folks. I know when I was getting rolling, I felt two different things. I felt, number one, on the rare occasion where I was able to get some guidance from somebody else, I really appreciated it. But for me, at least, the more prevalent thought was how alone I felt at times because I didn't have other people that were willing to share as much. So we're thrilled to share, as well as excited to always learn from each other. We've been able to spend some time together recently, and I think we were both really glad we did, picking up good info from each other. So I'll throw out a topic, and then I'll let Jason kind of take the reins for a minute, and then we'll bat it back and forth a little bit and see what we come up with. But I think that the idea, the main topic, is what people often refer to as shiny object syndrome. And I know Jason has never once, not one single time, fallen victim to this, so I'll let him lead out. But shiny object syndrome, man, the squirrel, the crazy ideas, what's in the world of residential real estate, man, what are your thoughts? What does it look like?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and it's a real thing especially with realtors. Constantly, people are looking for that secret formula. Does this work? Does that work? And the facts are that everything works. Everything works, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I guess I should quantify that. Like, everything isn't going to work for me, and everything isn't going to work for Todd. And so
Right.
Part of the equation with shiny object syndrome, when people ask me, well, for example, they'll ask me, does your Real Geek site actually work? Well, yes, the site for us is an excellent tool to generate leads that connect us with buyers and sellers. So yes, it does work. However, it may not work for you. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, I know there's people that are watching this that maybe have a Real Geek site and aren't making any money from it at all. There's some that just have a Real Geek site so that they can be part of the Real Geeks forum because they appreciate all the other stuff, but they don't really use the tool. Again, it does work, but it doesn't work for everybody. So that's going to be my thing that I'm going to stick to on this show today, Todd. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, specifically on that comment, I would say it's almost never the tool that is going to even dictate whether it works or not, right? So we can stick with the idea of Real Geeks, or you could say open houses, or you could say internet leads, or you could say radio or TV or billboards or whatever. I mean, there's stuff that makes my skin crawl that real estate agents do, but it works for them. It would not work for me because I would not do that genuinely and authentically, or I wouldn't even do it like energetically. I would hide. Like, I don't like putting my picture on stuff, so putting my photo on a bunch of stuff, I'm not going to do it. Or if I did it, it probably wouldn't work because I wouldn't give it a full effort. But there's other people, men, women, older, younger, it doesn't matter if the photo is necessarily attractive, but they believe in it and they lean into it and it works. So I would argue, like, to go back to the Real Geeks example, it doesn't have anything to do with the coding and the X's and the O's and all that. I mean, certainly you can be more successful if your SEO and your copywriting's better, but more importantly, I think I would rephrase it a little bit, and it's not to change the point, it's to make another point, is most things will work if you will use them, if you will work them, right? People always say the best database is the one you'll use. We have a referral system on our team. We call it your top 50 system. And I don't care what the actual system is. Some people on our team literally use a plastic box and 3x5 cards. Some people use the task notifications in Infusionsoft, those are opposite ends of the spectrum of like ease of use and technology, right? So when we talk about shiny object syndrome, just to reference some things we've already said in the first 4 minutes or whatever, somebody hears Real Geeks and they're like, oh, I'll go buy a Real Geek site and then my business is going to change. Infusionsoft, oh, I'll go get Infusionsoft. Oh, you know what? We're going back to the basics. 3x5 cards, you're going to change everything. Oh, slow down. And this is where I'll kind of volley back to you. Again, we share similar principles. Our businesses are very different, but we share the philosophy that you've got to keep it simple and stay focused. But you've always done such a good job with kind of we talk about a 3-pillar business, but it's a little bit different than the way you talk about a 3 or 4-pillar business. So you go and then I'll go, but we can talk about focus and which objects aren't necessarily shiny. They're the right objects that are not a distraction. What do you think?
Well, there's so many ways to build a business. So that's number one. You have to build it to your strengths. That's key. So for me, I have a background where I'm super comfortable with phone prospecting, following up. The phone has always been something that I've done in my sales career. So for me, that made sense to have a really strong lead generation platform that could generate buyer and seller leads. So the internet made sense for me. So that was to my strengths. I know that I'm really strong on the phone. I have very good communication skills. And, you know, we've been able to build some really strong systems that help us convert. So internet leads have been an amazing tool for us. We probably generate, since we've started, 50 to 55% of our business consistently annually is from our online lead generation. So that works for me. Having said that, I also have two other pillars to my business, because I know that I can't just focus on one thing. I have to have multiple things. So social media has been a really big thing for us from day one. We're putting valuable content out there. We're doing very, very well-produced listing videos that really showcase our clients' homes in the best light, and they can see that we put a lot of effort into every single listing. That's been important to me from day one. And that has been something that in the first year probably didn't return a big ROI. In fact, I probably lost money doing that in year one, but by year 2 and 3, it became one of my better return on investments. That's something that I do. Third thing is referrals. We've been really focused on referrals. Our first quarter goal, we wanted to generate 50 referrals as a company. So we've put specific metrics in place that we're focused on and activities that we're doing to generate more referrals as a business. And so it would be really easy for me all of a sudden to start doing mailers, and for me to all of a sudden start doing mega open houses. And I could get really distracted by doing multiple things, but I've been so set on figuring out mastery in these 3 pillars. And I've been so consistent, and it's worked really well for me, because at the end of the day, I'm not confused where my marketing dollars are going. And it was built on the foundation of my strengths from the beginning. And this is the mistake that a lot of people make. They're like, well, I want to build a business just like Jason did. Can't do it. I want to build a business just like Todd did. Can't do it. We're all individuals. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. And so you also have to identify your marketplace. When I came into my marketplace, there were some mega agents that were doing unbelievable amounts of business and have been doing it for 20 plus years. And they've been doing the mailers. They've been doing such a really good job of having really traditional marketing methods work for them that I couldn't compete on that front. And I didn't even try. I came in and I was like, hey, I'm going to focus on the internet. I'm going to focus on my strengths. That's how I'm going to become a dominant player in my market. And so that's what I'll challenge people, is really evaluate what your strengths are, what you bring to the table, and then build your business around that. And that, once you get your pillars, say pick 2 or 3 things that you're going to focus on, build a plan around that, and then make your decisions. And it will help avoid the shiny object syndrome, because the truth is you can't do 10 things really well.
Yeah, you absolutely can. I always use the mortgage lender as the horrible example, because it's always easy to beat up on a mortgage lender. But, you know, you get the postcard from the lender. It's like, we specialize in FHA, VA, vacant lots, you know, rural loans, refinancing, cash out. Like, that's not what specialized means. That's not how it works. So to go back to something you said that I think if people aren't picking up on it, they should be, because I think it's a key point. You talked about your videos are one of your top 2 really sources of business. But the whole first year, that was a money loser, right? A cost, and there was no positive ROI on that. So to illustrate the point we're making, if you were living in, you know, shiny object syndrome, you would have bailed on it and moved over to something newer, more exciting, that seemed like a quicker return, you know, a super fast turnaround, deals now type of thing. And you never would have reached the point of what I would call maturity of that lead source, of that focus area, of that pillar, right? So I think one of the things people need to be taking away from the whole conversation, but specifically from Jason, is it's the discipline to build a real business and not chase deals that will protect you from shiny object syndrome. So let me give my quick version of that. About 52% of our business over the last 12 months is from repeat and referral business. That's always our number 1. We're proud of it. We love it. Number 2 is what we call home search leads. Some of those people are sellers, but they search homes. That's how they originate. That's give or take 30% of our business. And then the remaining portion is radio and a bunch of other stuff. And the home search and the radio sort of ebb and flow for number 2 and 3, but they're both substantial lead sources. And then there's a whole bunch of little ones, right? Now, they're not necessarily shiny objects, but sign calls, open houses, general networking, friends, family are solid, right? But the vast majority of the attention goes to those top 3. And those top 3 get the focus and the energy to build and continue to build maturity, right? We're not pulling away from those. Now, look, if radio was a total money loser and it was a bad quality lead for 6 or 8 months, you better believe we would slow down, reevaluate, dig into the numbers and figure it out. And if it did that for a year or 2, then we would pull the plug and we would go find a new number 3, right? But we're not constantly doing, hey, let's try that. Hey, let's try that. And I'll give you a quick example and I'll volley it back. BombBomb is great. Lots of people do really, really well with BombBomb. I have never used BombBomb, but it's been on my list of things I'd like to evaluate for like 2 years. Just in the past week, we did a free trial with BombBomb and we're checking it out. The fact of the matter is, if and I fall victim to shiny object syndrome sometimes. Let me be clear. I'm not like immune. And I was joking when I said that, Jason's never, ever, ever struggled with this. But discipline leads to success. So the more disciplined you are, likely the more successful you'll be. So I'm growing in discipline. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm way better than I used to be. So this is an example of when I was disciplined enough to say, we're not ready to go try that yet. We don't have the bandwidth to test that yet. So we got to a point where I had the freedom to test it. I didn't even tell the rest of the team. I was tinkering with it. And now I'm saying, okay, I'd like to have 1 or 2 of our team members play with it a little bit, and then we'll decide if we're going to fully adopt it. But if I were saying, let's try that, let's go do this event, let's go do that, then you'd lose sight, you'd lose commitment and discipline, and the things that already have momentum can lose ground. Yeah. So I really think it's that discipline and that commitment that will protect you. Go ahead and make a list. Just don't dive in, don't attack it. Yeah. Now I'll volley it back to you, and then I've got at least one more meaty thought, I think.
Well, it's human nature, right? It's just like, we were talking about relationships, Todd and I, recently, and talking about the importance of, working at your current relationship and how easy it is to sort of, you have your mind wander, see something new and exciting. Maybe there's a new person that's, more exciting to look at. But at the end of the day, what you have in front of you is really the most productive time that you can focus on. And so sometimes you get bored with your business, you get bored with the different things that you're doing. So you want to spice it up by adding some new things. But what'll happen, those new things are going to become boring too, right? Yeah. And that is something that you need to recognize quickly, is you need to get excited about what you have going on, not what others are doing. And I think the more time you get excited about what you have and you start investing quality time in what you have and making it better and working towards mastery, the better your business results are going to be. Be proud of the type of business that you run. And we all run different businesses. Todd has his things that he does. And you know what? There's inspiration that I take from Todd all the time. But then I have to go back and evaluate, okay, what are my values as a company? What's my objective, and what are my pillars? Where does this information fit in that? And sometimes it doesn't fit in it at all. And then I don't do it. And same thing with Todd. He'll evaluate some of the things that I'm doing, and he may test some of those things, but they have to work within his values and within his business. So I guess the question is, you may not feel like you have a super exciting business right now. That's okay. You don't have to try and copy somebody else or get excited about somebody else's business, but get excited about your business and the things you've got going on. If you're running a repeat and referral business, be proud of that and figure out how you can run that further. If you have decided to make a commitment on internet leads, invest some time and energy in becoming a master at really improving that conversion rate that you have with that source. But get excited about what you've got going on, not what other people have going on. And I think that's the hardest thing as humans, is for us to stay excited about what we've been doing, because sometimes it starts feeling boring. And relationships are no different. So I use that just sort of as context for people to realize.
Yeah, and if you guys ever see me looking down, it's because I'm taking notes. Jason just said, we're constantly getting inspiration or ideas, or honestly, sometimes accountability, like, hey, why are you doing that? Don't do that. So I'm taking notes. I'm not working on anything else. I'm trying to grow myself, and then the better I get, the more I can share with other people. So I had one more comment. Now I've got 2 because I took a good note there. But my note on what Jason was just saying, and this is what I tell a lot of our coaching and consulting clients, and certainly my team here in Dallas-Fort Worth area, is it is wise to model other people. It is not wise to copy other people. And I don't mean that like, don't copy me, don't take my stuff. I mean, you have to do what Jason just said. You've got to figure out where your gifts, your abilities, your passions, your tolerations are. You know, there's some things that are probably super annoying to you, but those things are enjoyable for me. So if you copy me, you're inviting a ton of annoyance into your world. Doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just not a fit for you, right? I could give you a bunch of different iterations and examples of that, but the point is, modeling is wise. I think Anthony Robbins gets most of the credit for that, you know, the idea of modeling others, but it's not rocket science to say, I want to have what that person has. I should probably do some of what they do. Keyword being some, right? And by the way, your life is different, your age, your family, your region. You know, Jason and I were speaking recently, and I was talking about some things that I do, and he mentioned, you know, I'd like to do that. The size of my market makes that a little bit different. I have the exact same deal. And I would say, honestly, probably my fourth pillar, and I'm not a big fan of having much more than 3, but we made a commitment about a year ago to really follow the lead that folks like you and some others had said on video. We had been doing video, but not all in. And so we've gone like all the way neck deep in, and we've done like 500 something videos in the last 12 months. Quite a bit more than that, actually. But anyway, I still know, though, that is not one of my top 3 lead sources. That can grow, but it cannot threaten those 3. If it starts to pull time or energy or dollars away from those 3, then we have to have a new evaluation. But in the beginning, you need to establish the first 2 or 3. When you get to a point of maturity, then maybe you can begin to consider adding or maybe replacing one with another. So that was a second thought. The other thing I want to be real careful of is, I think the cure to the shiny object syndrome stuff is discipline. It doesn't mean being slow, though, right? And I think some people might hear this and think that we're sort of saying you've got to be slow and boring and methodical. There's still a lot of value to speed to implementation, of seeing a problem and attacking it, of being willing to pivot quickly, right? But those are kind of different pieces of your business than your 2 or 3 core lead sources, right? You can go test something quickly. You can go fail forward without threatening the foundation of your business, right? Without pulling time and attention away from your top referral sources, your top lead sources, your top producing team members, right? You can hire somebody new, but not if that means you don't have enough time to serve the team members you already have. You know, you can take on a new client, but it's not wise if it pulls you from an established client, you know? So I want to make sure those 2 thoughts cooperate and they don't seem like opposing viewpoints, because I think some people would think you either have a boring 3-pillar business or you're an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs try new things and they're speed and they're adaptable. That can both happen in a business. And I can just tell you that that's true for my business. I'm confident it's true for Jason's business, and it can be true for yours, but there is some patience, there is some delayed gratification that comes with getting to the point of maturity, to getting to the point of stability. One of my longtime coaches, Joe Stump, always says, like, you got to get to survival, then you get to stability, you know, then you get to success, and then you aim for significance. And those are different points in your career. But if you're still at survival or stability, then you really shouldn't be doing a tremendous amount of testing of new cool ideas. You should be modeling things that work, right, and that match your gifts and abilities, and putting it on repeat, you know, wash, rinse, repeat, you know, do it again and again, make more calls, do more open houses, knock more doors, whatever the thing is. If it's working, scale it and then add, you know. So anyway.
Can I add a point here?
Yeah.
I think we're all guilty of this. Is we look at other people's lives, or we perceive their lives to be better than what they really are in a lot of cases.
Yes.
You know, in this industry, we see that a lot. You see these people are like, oh my God, that person's so successful. They travel all the time. They have all these cars and boats and jets, and none of that's real, folks. Some of the most miserable people that I know have tons of material items. Okay. So if you're striving to be like those people, you're striving for to be miserable. So what I guess the point of the shiny object thing today is be excited about what you've got going on and forget about what other people are doing. You know, look, Todd has an incredible family and he has incredible faith in the things that he believes in and he does. And I respect that tremendously because I see a genuinely happy person that's actually very well balanced. And so Todd doesn't know this, but maybe he does. He's one of the people that I look up to. I have this like board of directors in my life of different people that I go to for different things. And Todd's one of those people that I admire and I want to find that type of balance. And so the whole moral of the story here is stop trying to chase the fake life that other people have and try and make your life the best that you can. And that doesn't mean that you sell 200 homes to be successful and happy. You know what I mean? Like it means you sell the amount of homes that you need to have the life that you want, but make sure that your values are in place and that you're not compromising those just to pursue money, because money will not make you happier. I make a lot more money than I've ever made, but my happipiness hasn't come from the money. It's freedoms. It's allowed me some things, but it's also entrapped me in some areas too. And these are things that I'm learning, and I'm starting to leverage my business to a point now where I can become a more balanced individual, because that's really important to me. And I want to have better relationships with my kids and everything else. So thus I look up to guys like Todd who have said, look, I'm not trying to sell 1,000 homes a year. I make enough money where I'm content and happy. He's still striving to be better, but it's not compromising his values or the time with his family. He's not willing to sacrifice that. His priorities are in the right place.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. That's super humbling to hear. It's fun, of course. It always feels good to get a compliment, certainly about, something as important as family and balance and things like that. I'll say the same thing a little bit differently. I think a lot of what you see on the stage at conferences and on webinars is what you want to see. There are some people that are willing to tell you what you want to hear. There's people willing to show you what you want to see. I think some of those people are legitimately doing well. I think a lot of us, and probably all of us in one way or another, the way my house looks 6.5 days a week is not as awesome as I'd like. But if you come to visit, I'm going to make it look better, right? But that's what everybody's doing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on stage at the franchise conference or whatever. So I'm not saying that all those people are flat out miserable liars. I'm saying you're at the most honest version of that is probably still the best honest version of that, right? And there are definitely some folks where you're not even getting an honest version. I mean, I literally caught myself really feeling not so great about what I was doing probably a year or two ago, because I was comparing with this other top agent, not real close to me, but another guy in Texas. And it didn't make me feel better to find out that although he was on the Wall Street Journal top agents list, although he was at his franchise, had every trophy, every shape, size you could possibly have, when I found out that he was literally losing his house to foreclosure and that his marriage was in a wreck, it did not make me feel better. I don't wish any harm on anybody. That's horrible. But it reminded me, I cannot live in comparison to him. I can't try to become him or have what he has. Now, that doesn't mean I can't try to have great culture if someone else has great culture, or have great systems if someone has great systems. That's that modeling, but not copying. And I would just add that comparison is a fool's game. I think I've heard it said the greatest source of disappointment is missed expectations. It's some version of that, right? If we would build towards our own expectations, right? Our own desires, our own goals. Like Jason said, the money's never the source of happiness. I tell our team when we set goals, have a financial goal, but nobody really wants money. We want what money gets us, right? We want time with our family. We want intimacy and relationship. We want travel and experiences, but it's almost always relationship. So to wrap some of this up, and I'll let Jason finish us off for sure, but the shiny object is most likely going to pull you away from the more important, more committed, more disciplined thing that you and your business and your family and your health or whatever really, really need. All these principles we just talked about, you can take it out of real estate and apply it to your health. Do you need a Peloton? I don't know. Are you doing anything yet? Let's focus on the basics first. Do you need a Porsche, I don't know. I mean, maybe you just get reliable transportation first. Do you have the core concepts? Do you have the foundation built before you test and strategize with new things? And if not, are you learning from those failures, or are you just piling up a big mess of failures and experiments? So anyway, those are my final thoughts. You want to wrap us up?
Well, thanks for listening. If you've spent this time here, I appreciate it. And hopefully this is a good reminder. Just keep things simple, easy, focus on your strengths. And the most successful people that I've seen in this business, I would say 99% of them don't have more than 5 pillars. Most of them would have 2 or 3 main pillars that are sort of the foundation for their businesses. And so if you start getting shiny object syndrome and you don't have established pillars for your business, stop for a second and figure out what are the best pillars based on your budget, based on your whys, your values, and the time commitments you're willing to put into things, and then set out your pillars. Does that make sense? Like,
yep.
Take the time to set the foundation and then build around that. And it starts with the kind of life you want to have, that your whys, why you're doing it, and then knowing yourself and your strengths. And I think that will make the big difference. That's the theme of the show today. Just get excited about what you've got going on. Todd and I both love helping. That's a big part of why we do this. We have different strengths and weaknesses that we bring to the table and different offerings. We're smart enough to recognize what those are, and we seek mentors in different areas of our lives. But if we can provide any value, don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. I mean, that's a big thing for us, is we love to give back, and we have different ways that we can help you. So stay tuned. We're going to send out some more content in the near future, and we really appreciate your time today.
Over and out.